Hello, everybody. Welcome to the group chat from Footy Accumulators and Betfair with me, Will Perry, and Mr. Alan McInally. The season's nearly done. Al, I want to talk to you about the Euros. A Scotsman talking about the England team. How pathetic. But here we go. Look, we assume that Harry Kane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin are both going into the squad, into Gareth Southgate's squad of now an extended squad of 26 people. So who would go as the third striker, even if he takes one at all? Is it going to be Patrick Bamford? Is it going to be Ollie Watkins? Is it going to be Callum Wilson? And obviously we're assuming that Sterling and all the other guys who can play in that front three are going. So just as an outside chance, is Bamford going to get a shout? He's played 35 games in the Premier League this season. He scored 15 goals, 191 minutes per goal. You've got Ollie Watkins, who I know you've been impressed with at Aston Villa. He's come from Exeter all the way up, via Brentford into the Premier League. 34 goals in the Prem, 13 goals, 4 assists as well, 235 minutes per goal. And then Callum Wilson. Ollie Watkins, we know, has played for England. He scored against San Marino, didn't he, at Wembley? Callum Wilson also played for England. The last time that he did was in October 2019. 26 games, 12 goals, 5 assists, 174 minutes per goal. As an option, he scores more goals in fewer minutes, doesn't he, Callum Wilson? Who would you pick if you had to take a third striker for your Southgate?
This is going to be... I think it'll keep Gareth Southgate up at night, to be honest. I think it's really tough, Will. I think Bamford deserves an opportunity with the job he's done at Leeds United because of all the 3 players you've spoken about there. The finger was pointed at him at the most. Not good enough, won't score goals, won't do enough for Bielsa, the way they play. He's been absolutely unbelievable. And by the way, I think you say 34 games, so if he's fit, Bielsa plays him. So I think he deserves a place. Reality is, I think it'll be either Watkins or Wilson. I think Patrick might miss out. I like Ollie Watkins, have done since I watched him. My God, for a couple of seasons at Brentford, honestly, his last season was absolutely fantastic. He was a Premier Division striker playing in the Championship, and he hasn't let anybody down at Aston Villa. And Callum Wilson, to be fair, is one of the reasons why Newcastle are still a Premier Division football club. It is extraordinarily difficult.
Does he go for the versatility, Al, then? Does he, if he's making that decision, one, he will look at a player in Callum Wilson, who we know is great, but he's missed a lot of the season and he has had his injuries. So will he want to risk taking someone who could just get injured in training and it's not worth taking them? Bamford, as we say, played 35 games. Watkins has played 34, but Watkins is versatile. I remember him at Brentford. He played in the BMW anywhere across the front three.
Correct, yeah. Look, I was going to say that Callum obviously has picked up injury and he wasn't there for a large part of the season. And I think if Brucey stays at Newcastle, I think he'd be quite happy if he doesn't get in the squad, if you know what I mean, in terms of he gets arrested, he's bouncing for next year. I think Ollie Watkins is, apart from the reason that he's happy to play on the right or the left, which that might be the case because it might be a fill-in if someone gets injured, because as long as Kane stays fit, he stays in the middle, forget it. But I think in terms of pace as well, I think Ollie's quick. I think he can add a little bit extra. So I'm going to go for Ollie Watkins, not necessarily genuinely because he's at my old team, Aston Villa, but I think he also deserves a place. And I think probably when Gareth weighs out the pros and cons with the 3 of the lads, I think Ollie Watkins brings you just a little bit more. But I do think the other guys have done absolutely brilliant, especially Patrick Bamford, because I think the finger was pointed at him to say, go on then, prove to us. And the boy did.
Right. I want you to help me pick the team, the England team. And this is not the England team who we think should play. It's who we think Gareth Southgate is going to pick, right? Because look, on the screen, you can see the favourite, the odds-on favourite, 6-1. This is the team that the bookies think is the favourite to start against Croatia for England's first game at the Euros. And it's Pickford in goal. It's a back 4 of Walker, Shaw, Maguire and Stones, a 2 defensive midfield unit of Phillips and Rice with Sterling, Mount and Foden behind Harry Kane. Okay, so can you see any holes in that? I mean, look, if we were going on who we should be in there, I genuinely think that Pope would start in goal for me. Anyway, that's
No, me too. Me too. We've spoken about this.
Yeah.
You and I have spoken about this before. I think Pope is a standout. To start. I really do. Sorry, Will. Carry on.
No, I think the back 4. You could argue Trippier, who's top of La Liga with Atletico. He's had a really good season. Trent's finding a bit of form as well. But I think Walker, Stones, Maguire and Shaw as a back 4 is what it's going to be. And then it's just on formation, isn't it? He has played 4-3-3 recently. I think that suits England, 4-3-3. In a dream world, everyone fit, I would play Henderson, Rice and Mount in midfield. And then I would play a front three of Foden, Kane and Grealish. And that's leaving out, as a Manchester City fan, Raheem Sterling, because I don't think his form recently justifies it. And obviously that's on Grealish getting fit enough to suddenly play some games, which is unrealistic, isn't it? But out of that team that we can see on the screen in terms of the favourite, with Sterling, Mount, Foden behind Kane, any changes in that one, Al?
I would prefer Grealish, but the injury for Grealish is telling me that he will not be a starter. That's a problem. Had he been playing right now for Aston Villa, and Villa's form had been a little bit better, then I think he is an absolute stick out. I think he will play Sterling on the left-hand side. I don't like England playing. Listen, there's been games this season for England that they've played Rice and Phillips, two holding midfield players. It's not negative. It's just too cagey, too sure. I don't think England need to play with two defense. Listen, if you're playing the Brazil 1970 team, you're playing three defensive midfield players.
Yeah.
England don't need to do that. And I think the lads are happy domestically as well in a 4-3-3 system where they can play Rice. I mean, Mount is a starter for me. He's been fantastic, as is Foden. But I'd need to say that probably Sterling would be the replacement then for me in that three up top. But I do like Rice there. I think if Henderson's fit, I think he plays as well on the right-hand side. But the only one of that, I'm happy with the back four. But I like Trippier.
What about James, Al? Is there an argument for James to play?
Yeah, and by the way, he's rapid as well. He's quick, really quick. So that right back area is another one where Gareth will be like, oh, gee whiz. I think Walker is the standout in terms of experience still, as long as he doesn't do something silly. I think he's okay. But if you and I are thinking, okay, Rice for me is a starter.
Yeah.
Right, who'd have Mount on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
If Henderson's not fit, who does he play on the right-hand side of Rice?
He could play Phillips there as well, couldn't he, and move them around if he plays two, or he could then.
See, I don't like that. See, you're going into something, Will, that Phillips doesn't play there for Leeds United. Yeah. So it's not a natural position for him. I don't like that when you step up to international football.
I think in that case he'd change the formation, wouldn't he? And that we're assuming that he plays either a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. He's played all sorts of things. He's played three centre backs, so he could play a 3-5-2, a 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And we are obviously second guessing. And I suppose it will be kind of who's available to them, who's fit enough, and that's how he picks his formation. And of course, who you're playing is another thing.
What about Rashford? Is there an argument for Rashford to get in there somehow?
No, he's not a starter for me this season. No, he's not. I mean, he'll be there. He'll be in the squad for sure.
Yeah.
Because, if something does happen to, the Sterling, if Grealish gets in, if Foden's not fit, etc., and Kane, and what about Mason Greenwood?
He should go. He's got to go, isn't he?
Oh, it's got to be in. So there's a kind of overload there. There's a right side of midfield. If I want to play my 4-3-3, if Henderson's not fit, who plays there all the time and knows the position? Now, you could actually bring Mount on that side because he's a midfield player. But it's something genuinely. It's a great position for Gareth to be in. And England are going to be strong. I think they're going to be strong. But I don't want them to play unless they're really up against the eight ball to play two defensive midfield players. I think they've got players in their team that work hard, have got plenty of energy without needing the extra blanket of an extra defensive midfield player. I don't think England should play like that. I genuinely don't. And I think they'll have a good Euros if they just play one, which will be either Rice or Henderson, presumably Rice, depending, of course, on fitness.
What were your thoughts, Al, on Derby County's players? They've come in for a bit of stick. I'm not quite sure where I sit on this one. Look, they survived on the final day. I watched that game. It was an unbelievable game, really. 3-3 it finished against Sheffield Wednesday. Darren Moore, good to see him back in the dugout. He's been ill and in hospital, isn't he, with pneumonia. And look, they could have stayed up. At one stage, it was kind of Rotherham staying up. It was flipping and all over the place. It was brilliant drama. And twice Derby came from behind to get that 3-3 draw, which means they stay in the Championship. There's a potential takeover in the offing as well. So that's going to certainly help those Derby fans get that takeover over the line. One win in their final 15 matches. They limped over the line, Wayne Rooney's side, surviving by the skin of their teeth. 1 point above Wycombe Wanderers in the Championship. 24 defeats in the season. Wayne Rooney, afterwards, to be fair to him, said nobody is proud, but they were scenes like they'd won the Champions League trophy. And I think Don Goodman on Sky and a few other guys were saying, like, why are they celebrating like this? Where do you stand with someone like that surviving on the final day?
I think the outpour of emotion was just the most relief of all time. And do you know why? Because I genuinely think they thought they were going to go down. I know they fought hard and got 3-3, but that little bit in the back of your mind, I mean, did you say 24 defeats in the season?
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't put a negativity thought in your mind, even going into the last day of the season, and being behind twice, and knowing that Rotherham are 1-0 up at Cardiff, and somehow Cardiff sneak an equaliser, and Rotherham don't go past both of them. I think the emotion was genuinely, listen, they're a championship team. Would it have come down to, I won't be making as much money, I don't want to play in the first division, obviously. Huge pressure on Wayne Rooney actually getting them over the line, which he did, end of. But I think the huge emotion, Will, was more like, my God, thank goodness for that. Because I tell you, so, and I've said this before, and it's something I'm not necessarily pretty proud of, because I played at teams that weren't really going to be relegated. But I'd have hated something in my CV that said I was relegated. Yeah. I mean, I would have absolutely hated that. Would have really gnawed away at me. You can lose games, you can lose big games. You know, I lost 2 semi-finals of the Champions League. You know, for Scotland, we lost games that we absolutely shouldn't have lost, but we did, and it happens in football. But to be relegated, that would have really hurt me. And I think the emotion of, oh my God, thank goodness for that, is more what you saw from the Derby players.
Well, we wouldn't be having a go at Wycombe Wanderers had they stayed up and celebrated like that. I know they couldn't do it on the final day. We wouldn't have been having a go at Rotherham. We probably wouldn't have had a go at Sheffield Wednesday because of the points deduction that they had with the 6 points. So we're having a go at Derby essentially because it's Wayne Rooney and because we think they should have survived a lot easier than they did.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And we think, well, if you look at the clubs that are involved there, we look at Derby thinking there are money, you know, there's money behind them, and the facilities are brilliant, and the stadium's fantastic, and Wayne Rooney's the manager, etc., etc., etc. Bottom line is, they're not good enough. They hadn't been good enough, and somehow by the skin of their teeth, they managed to fall over the line, like you quite rightly said, Will. They will have to make big changes next year because 75% of that squad ain't good enough to get them anywhere near the top 6 in the Championship. So I would imagine there'd be a very busy boy, Wayne Rooney, in the summer, bringing players in. They can do the job because that lot, absolutely no chance. Good enough to keep you in the division by a point. It's not good enough for Derby County.
So Fulham's defeat against Burnley means that they have been relegated, Al, to the Championship. Is it a great surprise? Probably not. So we know the 3 who are going down in Sheffield United, West Brom and now Fulham. They had a chance, didn't they? They had to beat Burnley and they could have put a bit of pressure on Burnley. If they'd won that game, they'd have been 6 points behind Sean Dyche's side with 3 games to go and they could have sucked Southampton into it as well. But it's not to be and they're going down. Scott Parker, your thoughts on him? You know, with that squad, he's essentially said that, you know, it was nothing to do with heart. It's nothing to do with determination. It's to do with the quality of the squad. They've got some big players in there. Ruben Loftus-Cheek didn't step up for them this season. You expected him to on loan from Chelsea. But, you know, he is now the 15-2 shout for the Spurs job. Is he overrated? What do you make of him? He's got a lot of personality. He's got a lot of things to say, but he has taken a team down to the Championship. Should he be in the mix for a team like Tottenham?
I think he's a well-liked guy, Scotty Parker. I really do. I don't really know a lot of people that I've ever spoke to in football that have an awful lot of negativity towards Scotty Parker. Yeah, he has taken the team down. He's got a lot of loan players in there as well. There are players that leave some big clubs that when they're asked to step up, you maybe find out they're not just as good as what you thought in terms of being the personal character as well as a player. But it's been a collective for them, to be honest. I mean, I think I'm right in saying, because I watched the game and I was listening to the commentators, and I'm going to say there was like 7 or 8 1-1s and at least 5 or 6 0-0ers in there. You know, that's kind of tightrope stuff, Will. You know, they could have maybe picked up, well, not maybe, they would have had to have picked up more points. Is he overrated? Well, let's see if he can bring them up next year. You know, if he stays there, forget about the Spurs being 15-2 for the Spurs job. Let's see if he can take them up next year, and then I think he can prove to everybody that it was a tough season. The club has got that yo-yo thing about them, and that's something they have to properly address. Can't just be coming up and down all the time. That's no good for anybody at the football club in terms of trying to keep a momentum there within Fulham. I mean, it's difficult to stay in the Premier Division, Will. I mean, it's really difficult. But I don't think he's a fraud, and I don't think he's overrated. I think he's good. He's got my ex-colleague, actually, I played at Aston Villa with him. Stuart Gray's one of the coaches there. Stuart's very experienced. So there may be an addition to some of the coaching staff there, but there's going to be that revolving door is going to be spinning faster than most of the Premier Division clubs, I would think, will, because they need to get players in on contracts. It's going to keep them at Fulham to make sure they're there, if they do manage to get up next season. So no, I'm not having him that he's overrated. I think he's a good coach, but it's been a very, very difficult season for them. And like I go back to those 1-1s and 0-0s, it could have been very different if they'd someone to stick the ball in the back of the net.
Cheers, enjoyed that, mate. What are you doing this weekend? There's no championship games left. What are you up to? Golf course?
No. Well, my daughter's Alistair's birthday. So on Saturday I'm going to my daughter's, and then on Sunday I'm down doing Leipzig and Wolfsburg.
Very nice.